Hey everyone, welcome to the Mighty Books Podcast, where we sit down and chat with mighty authors about their books, message, writing successes, struggles, and other relevant authorship topics. I'm your host, Ryan M. Oliver, author of the Beasts of Men and Gods series. Now let's get started on today's chat.
This week's guest author on the Mighty Books Podcast is James Donaldson. James completed a 20-year professional basketball career in the spring of 2000. James established the Donaldson Clinic in January 1990, shortly after a career-threatening knee injury, with an idea that he would eventually become a physical therapist. He is a strong advocate for women and minority-owned businesses and is very involved with various chambers of commerce. He understands what it takes to sustain a strong business environment that is conducive to the success of businesses overall. James is a Washington State University graduate, 1979. After an outstanding basketball career with Washington State University, he went on to play professional basketball in the NBA with the Seattle Supersonics, San Diego and LA Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and Utah Jazz. He also played for several in Spain, Italy, and Greece of the European leagues, plus toured with the Harlem Globetrotters to wrap up his career. James was an NBA All-Star in 1988 while playing center for the Dallas Mavericks. In 2006, James was inducted into the Pac-10 Sports Hall of Fame and also the Washington State University Athletic Hall of Fame. He now devotes the majority of his time to various community activities and toward the Gift of Life Foundation, speaking on mental health awareness and suicide prevention. James frequently conducts speaking engagements, motivational, inspirational, and educational for organizations, schools, youth groups, and is the author of Standing Above the Crowd. In 2009, James was a candidate for the office of mayor for the city of Seattle. He had a strong fourth-place finish in a crowded field of 8 candidates. It was the first time that James has run for an elected office in the world of politics, and he will work closely with several elected officials in regards to politics, youth, and educational issues in Seattle. In 2019, James was a candidate for Seattle City Council, District 7, and in 2021, James is a candidate for the office of mayor of Seattle. James is a 40-year resident of Seattle. He believes in being a role model of success and professionalism for the scores of young people that he devotes so much time. He currently serves on several boards and committees and is a member of many organizations. James believes in developing relationships that create a win-win environment for everyone involved and being the best they can be. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today, joining me, we have James Donaldson. James, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing just great, Ryan, and glad we finally get connected here.
I am too. I am too. Scheduling has been definitely a thing, but that's just how life goes. When you're busy, it's hard to link up sometimes.
That's right. But with technology, we make it happen. So here we are.
Yeah, if we didn't have this kind of thing, it would be almost impossible to do most of the meetings we do today. So I'm really grateful we have that at our disposal now. So today we're here to talk about one of your books. What is the title of your book we're discussing today?
That would be the Celebrating Your Gift of Life book, which I wrote about a year and a half ago. The subtitle is From the Verge of Suicide, Back to a Life of Prosperity and Joy. And this is my book entailing the really rough, difficult mental health challenges I went through in 2018. Mm-hmm. Able to overcome all of that. And the book is chock full with helpful advice and tidbits to help anybody who's going through those difficult times.
Mm-hmm. I'll say it's a very, very important topic. I work in a safety field, and the metrics coming out is unfortunately suicide at work even is actually on the rise now, which is just it's a frightening idea that anyone would commit suicide to begin with, but at work of all places too.
Yes,
it's daunting. I don't know it's hard to fathom how dark a place as someone has to be to do that.
I was there, so I know. And suicide rates are off the charts in just about every category over the last 2 or 3 years with the pandemic, especially. Be it our health professionals, our veterans, our students, you name it. And it's just really, really tragic. But that's what I'm trying to do, trying to get people, before they get to that point, to get the help they need and to be able to stabilize themselves and realize that, hey, life is indeed worth living. Don't throw it away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Unfortunately, a lot of us have personal experience either with the loss of a loved ones or have gone through it themselves, like you have, and thankfully chose to stick around and provide wonderful stuff for us to help heal those who are suffering.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, what inspired you to tell your story? What inspired you to tell this very personal story to the world?
Well, and before we get started, I want to say that this month, September, is National Suicide Prevention Month. So I've been out there advocating with it more than ever this month. I've been in a lot of speaking engagements. So this month is really set aside for National Suicide Prevention Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we have 2 months that are kind of carved out to really, really dig in and talk about these topics and get people talking about it and feeling comfortable. With me, when I was going through what I went through, and a short synopsis of all of that is, my life was going great and everything was well. Post NBA life, running a business for almost 30 years and just really doing well. And then all of a sudden, due to a health issue, I came down with an aortic dissection, which almost burst on me. And that would have been the end right there anyway. But they cut it just in the nick of time back in 2015. But that led to, that surgery, 3 other major heart surgeries in a total of 5 years. So 4 major surgeries in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, sidelining me from everyday life of running my business and doing all the things I had done up to that point. I ended up losing my business and throwing my NBA life savings into it, trying to save it. So it just didn't pan out, and I ended up closing the business. This was a physical therapy, so I'm used to the work you're doing with occupational therapy.
Okay.
We did physical therapy business for 28 years, and I went through a divorce. The wife, I guess, got fed up with everything and it left me when I was trying to recover with all this in 2016. My mother passed away as well the same year. The business went out of business in 2018. Ended up filing for bankruptcy and foreclosure on my home that I'd lived in for 40 years. And so, I was just talking to a bunch of student athletes a couple of days ago about sometimes life just throws you a curveball that you just can't handle. And you get caught with that bat on your shoulder and you just have to deal with it. And my whole life just went upside down at that point. And drove me deep into depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts and ideations in 2018. I think what really stirred me and made me doggedly determined to hang in there no matter what was the death and suicide of the young football quarterback player at my alma mater, Washington State University. This was Tyler Helinski. Back in January 2018, kind of right in the midst of mind deep and darkness, he took his life on the campus of Washington State University. Mm. Here he was, a young man, 20 years old, 21, the heir apparent to be the starting quarterback on the football team the next year. And people could not fathom why he would do this. The next several weeks, and here I was reading all these reports about Tyler. I didn't know him personally, but I knew, of course, Washington State and all the iconic landmarks they were talking about in the articles, writing about him, people trying to figure out why Tyler would do this, how he would do this. He had so much to live for. It hit me to such an extent where I said, wow, everyone's out there trying to tell Tyler's story. And he's not here to tell his own story. I have to make it through this so I can tell my story.
Right.
And that's really what got me going and saying, wow. I had to hang in there another 10 months because that whole year of 2018, I call it my year of pure darkness and hell. It was really, really tough. But around that time is when I reached out to my medical professionals, my doctor, who prescribe prescription medication for the anxiety and depression. He helped me get a behavioral health counselor on board and in my corner that I can speak to 2 or 3 times a week. And then I grabbed a small group of friends around me, people who had known me for 30, 40 years, including some of my old basketball coaches, Coach Lenny Wilkins with the Sonics and Coach George Raveling with the WSU basketball. Both these guys are in their mid 80s now, but they were right there with me every step of the way.
That's awesome.
Reminded me that, I had worked so hard to get to where I was, and they weren't going to let me give up.
Yeah.
I needed that kind of inspiration, that kind of support, that kind of encouragement to keep on going no matter what.
Absolutely. I mean, just having a good support system, any support system, I feel like is pivotal to bringing you back into a more centered mindset anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that mindset, you're just not thinking straight.
No.
I had visions of me, hanging from a rope into my rafters in the garage, sitting in my car with the exhaust running and carbon monoxide poisoning, going out and physically beating up a police officer and hoping that he would shoot me and kill me, which he probably would have done. I had several different ways. I wanted to exit this world. I didn't put any of those things into motion,
right.
But the were real and right there always with me.
Yeah, they're just kind of toying with you the entire time. And that's a challenging thing to come out of. So I mean, how do we help those in need? I mean, it's not physical.
Yeah.
That's hard. And people who have depression and anxiety, they have excellent masks they wear.
Yes.
They're great at coping in social situations.
We all put our little public face on.
We do.
And we have no idea what somebody might be going through. And I think the key is just to stay aware of people's obvious behavioral changes. If they become sullen and distant and look totally lifeless and unhappy, something's obviously going on.
Yeah.
If they start talking about, the world would be better off without them, obviously something's going on. If they start getting their personal affairs in order and giving away items and precious things that have been very valuable, something is obviously going on. And so we have to keep an eye open for those kind of behaviors. But there's studies out now that show that actually talking about suicidal thoughts and ideations is probably one of the most helpful things. And over the years, this is something that most of us have shied away from. We don't want to talk about it. Even somebody who might be going through it, we just don't want to talk about it. And so that's one of the most helpful things I find now is sitting down with that person and just being that support system for them and talking. And more likely than not, they'll end up talking to you more than you end up talking to them.
Yeah.
Because they found a shoulder that they can lean on and cry on.
Yeah. And just getting that pent up emotion out, especially for males, I feel like, it's culturally, it's like, well, you're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to be the strong rock. And so for women, I feel like it's more acceptable for them to cry because that's kind of just how the culture, at least in American culture, and I assume other places too, will take that. Thankfully, nowadays, at least I've seen from my job and just this generation, this last probably 20, 25 years,
Yes.
it has become more acceptable for like, guys, you need to open up too, because if you keep this stuff, it's just going to cement in your gut and eventually it's going to fill you up and you're not going to be able to deal with it anymore.
That's right. Right. But we still need the encouragement. Guys do.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my focus areas is working with boys and men to let them know it's okay to reach out for help. We don't have to soldier through it all by ourselves like we're taught to do.
Yeah.
We don't have to resort to behaviors that are obviously very damaging. Alcohol and drugs and promiscuity and gambling. I mean, these are things that guys get into, make the situation so much worse.
It starts with those who have gone through it in the past, and like yourself, who is reaching out to folks, people who don't even realize they need help.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, eventually you're giving them a tool that they can use or something to identify a tip, you know, at later in life, 20 years down the line, to go, well, this gentleman told me about this, and I'm seeing it with my, you know, brother, sister, friend. Maybe I should investigate, you know, gently investigate what's going on with them, and just maybe contact, you know, check in with them every now and then.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I want a little team to do. Check in on me a couple of times a week, please, because
Yeah.
back then nobody was calling me except for, bankruptcy attorneys and lawyers and lawsuits and landlords. Nobody was calling me except for those kind of folks
Yeah.
who are both my coaches and a couple of other guys that say, hey, call me 2 or 3 times a day or 2 or 3 times a week just to check in and see how I'm doing, how I am emotionally, where I'm at emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally. And I asked them if I can call them because I was having trouble sleeping through the night. If I can call them at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and they all put their hand up and say, yes, put me on speed dial and give me a call if you need to talk to someone.
So having a good support system is clearly vital. Having people who are vigilant is vital. But what I love about your book is it's not only just a great book. I've read a few chapters already, and I definitely want to get a physical copy for myself. But it's also a reflective workbook.
Yes, 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 it is, and that was by design to give people something to think about at the end of every chapter. Several introspective questions that I'm encouraging people to write in the book in those lines and just kind of put their thoughts down, uh, and anybody else who reads the book as well.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a chance to think. Take that time out to just think about where you are right now. And I went through a very difficult personal relationship with the marriage, a very difficult financial relationship with losing my life savings, and people are feeling that now with our stock market crashing and the recession that we're going in and losing their 401ks.
Right.
People are going through the same thing right now, and if it's really starting to wear on your mental state, you've got to take that mental check and just say, wow, what can I do to get better?
I guess identifying the fact that you need to talk to somebody is, you know, the whole denial is the first step thing. It's true. It's you accepting that you do need to talk to somebody. You do need to, you know, maybe do a little reading or thinking about what is what I'm thinking healthy? Is what I'm thinking, you know, does that need to change for the better? And just asking those questions, I feel like is the tipping point to the right fall in the right way.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Uh, and this is the work that needs to be done and talked about openly.
Mm.
There's some stigma about mental health, especially in our communities of color and marginalized communities. Our African American community just won't reach out for mental health help for a variety of historical reasons and situations that have happened to us over the generation. Native Americans the same way, Hispanic Americans for fear of being deported or discovered that they may or may not be documented.
Right.
Asian Americans with their cultural losing face kind of cultural thing that they go through. You don't lose
Yep.
or bring shame upon your family. Our LGBTQ community, trans kids that are going through all this now. So there's so much work to be done and so much additional support that needs to be in place. Unfortunately, right now we have a great shortage of mental health professionals to help everyone. So if you make an appointment with your local health professional, you may not get in to see them for 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 months even. It may take months to get in because they're that booked and that slammed and that busy. So my thing is trying to help people prepare. And if you go into that dark place, you are at least have some strategies and some resources to reach out to and help yourself with that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, you need to have all that to it's such a hard it's a hard topic. It's a hard thing to prepare yourself for, and you really can't. Sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, and people go, this person, like you said with the quarterback from Wazoo, like, well, they had their life going for them, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you peel back the layers, he or she who are dealing with whatever they're dealing with, they might not see it like you do.
No, that's right. That's right. I mean, three high profile suicides come to mind this year alone. There was this at Stanford University, this soccer goalie, female student athlete, a superstar player, took her life at 22 years old. Miss America, Miss USA, Chelsea Chris from New York, took her life. And here's a beautiful, and she was also an attorney, and she was well accomplished,
successful.
The CEO for Bed Bath and Beyond just jumped to his death from a New York skyscraper last month. These are people you think have it all in the palm of their hands.
Yeah.
These are just the high profile ones. We lose people every single day.
Yes.
To the tune of about 50,000 people taking their lives, and not even touching on our returning vets from our military service.
Yeah.
25 a day take their lives around the country. Just incredible.
It is. It's insane at how rapid, how big it's growing exponentially. I mean, we now have at the place I work, we have days where it's suicide prevention days. We actually have an event coming up. Actually, I think it was this week.
Good.
And it's, you come after work or before work or during, and like we're allowing people to leave work.
Good.
You get paid to go, and there's resources, people you can talk to. We have 3 counselors for both the military and for civilian.
Good.
There's phone numbers because it's the same thing. You put it up there because when I'm training a group of people, no one's going to stand up and raise their hand. Oh, I need that resource. That's just going to bring a lot of light onto them. They don't want that. You don't want that. You want to have an intimate conversation with somebody you can trust for that. It's a privacy thing. Yes. So to be able to go up and go, hey, take this pamphlet. Oh yeah, I'll take this to, I'll put it in my pocket, and they actually look at it later. That's a good thing. They can secretly, start to come out of their shell and find somebody they can trust to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go out and speak, especially to young people. Mm-hmm. I was speaking at a high school and a middle school a week and a half ago, and same thing. I try to make it interactive. I try to get the kids to ask a question or two. Many times afterwards, 2 or 3 will come up and tell me they're suicidal right now. And these are 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds. And you just wonder, wow, how did you get in this place? And let's make sure we get you some help. Spoke to the student athletes at the local university a couple of days ago. Same thing. So many of them had questions afterwards. And they just really, you can see the burden of trying to be a student athlete. Yeah. Trying to balance those activities and the pressures on you to excel in both areas. It's a thing to do.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and it's terrible that people feel like they have to put that weight on their shoulders, and they don't have to. But it is built in our society.
Yes.
To be successful, you have to be the best at everything. Yes, there is some layer of truth to that, but when it comes to, realistically, you can excel at what you do, not be the best, but you can excel and still be successful. You don't have to be the best. That's a lot of pressure put on, especially a young, maturing teen. In high school, especially. Wow.
That's right. Yeah. And I was just speaking to a medical doctor the other day, and suicides are very high in the medical profession. He said if they report or put on their forms that they're having mental distress, well, they're likely to be sidelined, temporarily unemployed for a while, which might be the best thing for them. Military personnel, you won't be able to handle a gun or armament of any type anymore if you put down you have mental health challenges. So there's reasons why people are so shy to talk about this thing, but we have to overcome that and help our institutions be more supportive instead of punitive.
Yes. Yeah. And basically ensuring the people who are dealing with this, it's a short time. It's a temporary situation. There will be no repercussions for you explaining this to us going, hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm not doing well. I need help. Please,
Yes.
They can suspend in a good way, like take away for a little bit so you can get better and then come back and resume normal duties.
Absolutely. Police officers, first responders, same way. Yeah, we just got to get that information into these institutions that they know how better to support their employees.
So On a personal note, when did you finally feel like you saw the light again and you were kind of coming out of that dark place?
Well, like I said, it took 12 months. So at the end of 2018, going into 2019, that darkness finally started to lift a little bit.
Yeah.
Moving on from the foreclosure, from the bankruptcy, from the divorce, and those other big tragic life events. Of course, my business closed down early 2018. That was the last shoe to drop, and that's what I was so fearful of. I mean,
Right.
you got this impending sense of doom that another shoe is going to drop any moment.
Right.
And that's tough to live with. And so after that last big shoe dropped on me, my business closing, um, about later in 2018, early 2019, the darkness started lifting a little bit. I started feeling a little bit better. I had all these big tragic life events off my plate. Now it was a sense of trying to find a purpose still, because I had lost my purpose for being here.
Mm-hmm.
No longer a business owner, no longer a husband, no longer a homeowner, no longer a lot of things.
Yeah.
Lost, and I tell people I lost everything except for my life, and that was just kind of hanging on by my fingertips, that I wouldn't take it. And so when that darkness started lifting, I realized, and I'm a man of faith, and I grew up in a Christian home, and I still very strong with my faith now. I knew God had allowed me to go through this for whatever reason. I didn't understand why, but I knew I used to fight with him all the time. Say, hey, man, I mean, I've lived a life that is exemplary. I didn't do anything wrong. But, uh, you know, and I didn't know the first thing about mental health challenges before I went through this. And when I came through this, God told me, he's like, hey, now you know about mental health. And I want you to get out there and use your platform. Mm. You're a big, tall, strong, recognizable guy, African-American guy. You're a former athlete, former professional athlete. People like you. People will respond to you. People will listen to you. And now you can get out there and do the work that you are prepared to do now. Foundation, your Gift of Life Foundation, because that gives me that platform and that whole menu of resources to be able to help other people out with what I went through.
Right. Can you go into a little bit of detail about your Gift of Life Foundation?
Sure will, yeah. Well, and that gave me also my sense of purpose again, too. Mm-hmm. I was just telling the student athletes a couple of days, yeah, I've been the big time NBA player. I've been a business owner. I've done all those things, and they were all great. But this is the most rewarding work I've ever done now, mental health, and helping out hundreds, if not thousands of people around the country. So what it is really, because I really feel and believe that life is the most precious gift that we could ever have. We get a lot of good things in life, but the most precious one is life itself. And so I started up Your Gift of Life with the idea of, and this was 2019, right before the pandemic, of course, everything shut down, but I wanted to travel all over the country, speaking to student groups, business corporations, sports teams about what I'd went through about mental health. And so that was put on hold for a couple of years, but that's okay because I was able to gather all these great resources and put them on my website, yourgiftoflife.org. And so people can see me speaking to groups and videos, and they can read my story. They can see a whole list of recommended resources that I recommend to people. And so it also gives me a platform that I can speak from and refer back to. Now I'm getting out there again, now that our pandemic is pretty much over, hopefully, the rest of the year and the foreseeable years. I tell folks, this is absolutely the next chapter of my life, and hopefully for the rest of my life, being that voice and that advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention.
Bravo to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And early 2020, thereabouts, or 2021, I wrote the Celebrating Your Gift of Life book. I just started thinking, wow, I've got a story here. This is what I wanted to stick around and do that Tyler wasn't able to do. Yeah. Is to tell my story and how and why I went through what I went through, but also how and why I worked my way out of it.
Yes.
And that's what I want people to take away from it.
That is wonderful. I'm very glad. I'm very glad you were able to pull yourself out. You had the great support system. You knew when to ask for help. You knew that wasn't normal thinking or healthy thinking. And I'm really glad you're able to come out of there. Unfortunately, a lot of us, my family too, we've dealt with this kind of thing. Uh, you know, we've had family members who died from suicide. It's terrible. It's tragic. It's so sudden. It just kind of hits you out of nowhere.
That's
And
right.
you try to look back and hope, like, what could we have done?
Right.
And really all you can't do anything at that point, but all you can do is learn, and hopefully you can identify for later.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we need to stay in constant communication, constant support with each other. We were talking about technology earlier. With this technology, the drawback is that, yeah, we're more connected, but we're also less connected than ever before.
Yeah.
Those personal relationships, going across the street and visiting your neighbor for an hour or two, person to person, instead of texting across the dinner table like so many people do. So there's some pros and cons of this stuff. We got to figure out the good aspects of it. And I think getting away from this stuff, shutting it down for a couple hours a day, just living life and breathing fresh air and listening to birds sing and walking your dog and having a good time,
Yeah.
uh, is really what will keep you grounded. And then also engaging in actual personal relationships is some of the best things that we can still do.
Oh yeah, we're very social. We're social animals, humans, and where this is great, having be able to connect with people who I've connected people from across the country, all over the place. But there is just something quintessential and fabulous about in-person contact, a handshake, a hug,
Right.
pat on the shoulder, whatever, what have you. It's that contact, that immediate reaction there in the moment. You can't replace that.
No, and that's what our students missed out on the last 2 or 3 years, especially middle school and high school kids. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that social connection is so vital for them in those developing years,
Yeah.
unable to do that.
Hmm.
And that, I tell folks, if they've been through this stuff for 2.5 years, they're going to be affected by this for the next 2.5 decades.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's going to go on for decades of what they went through in 2020, 2021.
Yeah. And I believe they're already seeing it with the littles right now who dealt with it, not being able to go out in, do daycare, do, church groups, do sports, anything, just with their, nuclear family. It's like, that's great. But sometimes, depending on the situation, that's all they saw. And,
Yes, that's right. That's right.
and that can affect them socially, emotionally, how they process things, behavior. There's a lot of things that change from that. Hopefully, with what we know now, we can start fixing or altering that a little bit, teaching them a little more.
I hope so, but we do need more help, more and more mental health professionals.
Oh yeah.
One of the beneficiaries of my foundation as we do our fundraising is to raise monies to pay the tuition, especially for students of color going into the mental health field. And
Oh
so, as they apply for their degrees around the country, I want these kids to get their degrees and then go back to their communities and serve these communities that are so reluctant to receive mental health help. It's one thing to look across the table and see somebody who looks like you, who can relate to you, culturally identify with you. I didn't have that myself. I had a young, mid 20s, late 20-year-old white Caucasian female, and she had no way to relate to me or what I was going through. Uh,
right.
you know, I remember her advice to me one day was go home and count sheep at night so I can get to sleep. I'm like, what? Lady, I need $500,000 to save my business. Come on. And I was so upset, but she had no idea.
Oh
She had,
man.
and so we need more help. We need more and more help.
Yeah. Having just a diverse group of people in a huge area of a huge area like this, like mental health,
Yeah.
is vital anywhere. I mean, just looking at, education, training people about it, what you can do, how to support, how to look out for, relationships, experiences, that's only going to improve when you widen the net of, everybody, a sample of everybody from America, from the world. You want
Yes,
that because what might work for you might not work for me, and vice versa.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the snapshot is with the over 100,000 mental health professionals we have in this country, only less than 2% are African American and of color. Less than 2%, spread all over 50 states.
Wow.
Chances of somebody from a community of color getting in to see a therapist of color is very, very slim.
Right.
And so I know the efforts we make with our foundation is just going to be a drop in the bucket. But if I can help 10 or 20 kids over the next 10 or 20 years get their degrees, a job well done. That's what I want to do.
You're making an impact. I know you're making an impact. I mean, you have to be. If just talking about it is going to change some things for the better. I mean, it really is. If anything's in the shadow in their mind when someone was talking about this
Yeah,
years ago, and now it's become pertinent to their life.
absolutely. Yeah. A lot of work to do, Ryan, but I'm on it. And this is what I do every single day. Like I said, the next chapter of my life. And it's the most rewarding part of my life I've ever been. So I don't have all the material trappings anymore. I'm renting a house,
Yeah.
boat beater car out there. I don't have any money in the bank, and just get a little monthly thing and just to live by. And that's what I do. But this life now is so much more rewarding than it ever was before.
That's great. A nice, simple, peaceful, rewarding life. I mean, we can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So at the end of the day, I know you've already kind of said this before. I just want you to reiterate. At the end of the day, what do you want people to learn from your book?
yeah, I want them to know and to learn that when they do uh, suffer from any kind of mental anguish, and it's the whole gamut. I mean, we've got, think PTSD, bipolar, personality disorders, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, mental health. All these things can affect us. And before the pandemic, 2 out of 5 of us were most likely going to suffer from something like this throughout our lifetime. After the pandemic, is up to 3 out of 5 now. So we are going to touch either personally or somebody we know pretty closely is going to go through these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
People to realize that taking one's life is probably the worst. Well, it is the absolute worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Because you can't come back from that. Suicide, they say, is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. We don't need you to do a permanent solution to a problem that's just temporary, even if it lasts 12 months like mine or 12 years for some people.
Yeah.
There's help out there, and you can receive the help, support, get your little group together, 2 or 3 people that love you and care about you, that you can call at 2 a.m, or they can call you, and they should call you 2 or 3 times a week. Get your doctor on board. This is the first step to make sure your doctor is on board. I'm not necessarily for prescription medications or medications of any kind, but my doctor recommended them. He prescribed them. He said, James, you need this. You're depressed. You're anxious. These will help you. And I stayed on for 6 months just because, he told me, the doctor, that this works with your brain chemistry. You can be jumping over buildings in a single bound all of a sudden or feeling much better. And I didn't.
Darn.
But brain chemistry is going to settle down to where it needs to be. So get those things on board. Identify those things now. And because it may take you 6 months to get in to see a mental health professional. Mm-hmm. Identify your 2 or 3 really good close friends that you can count on and rely on during those days that you just can't get to sleep.
Excellent advice for a continual ever growing problem, but hopefully with the like your gift of foundation, that and others hopefully as well. People are reaching out and other things. We can slow it down to hopefully even eliminate it altogether. That is the hope.
Right. And let me make a quick little plug for the book. It's Celebrating Your Life. You can get it on Amazon or any of the online retailers, of course. You can send me an email to my my James D at celebratingyourgiftoflife.com email address, and or go to yourgiftoflife.org, and you can find where you can order it directly from me. From me directly, I put in a nice little note, nice little inscription to you. Amazon is not going to do that. Barnes and Noble, they won't, but I'll do that for you.
Yes,
because
email it, borrow it from, get it from him.
yes, because it comes directly to me, and I actually put it in the mail and drop it off back to you. So either way, I want people to get the book and just realize that help is available, and there are some surefire steps that will help you get through this very difficult life, a very difficult time of life that most likely 60% of us are going to be going through at some point or another.
Yes. Well, those are excellent and wise words, sir. You beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you where we can get a copy of your book, and you answered that for me. So that worked out very well. So, James, this has been fabulous. I'm so glad we got to link up and chat about a very important topic. I'm so glad that you are having a wonderful, fulfilling life, doing everything that makes you happy and keeps you purposeful in life and having a great time.
Yeah, I love it. This is a great life, and I'm so glad that I'm still here to enjoy each and every cherished, precious day, every day.
Yes. Well, everyone at within the Mighty Books podcast listening base, I really hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. James, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you. Okay, send the link over when you get a chance, and I'll put it on social media for you.
Oh, I definitely will. I will definitely make sure you get this link. I'll make sure. All right, everyone, you have a fantastic day.
Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.